This video is for those of you that would like to improve the antennas on their DJI Phantom 2 Vision's camera. So I'll show you the process of modifying the camera and what you need. You can look in my description for a list of parts and things used, as well as any update information. But for this mod, you're going to need a 1.5 millimeter Allen key, or hex wrench, basically. This is a 1.5 millimeter. You're going to need a 00 sized Phillips screwdriver and a needle nose pliers or maybe tweezers. And the parts you're going to need is, I'm going to be using two of these. You can do it with one antenna. It's an U.FL to RP-SMA connector. This is a female U.FL. And here's the RP-SMA. You will use this to connect into the Vision camera, and your new antennas will screw in here. Keep in mind there are two antennas in the camera. A dual antenna design won't really increase your range, but it will give you the flexibility of having antennas in different orientation to give you better reliability when flying. And also, if you haven't already modified your Phantom Vision's Wi-Fi repeater, you should do that first, because you may be satisfied with a range just after doing that. And you can, that video is in my description, the link to that video. So I have already undone the 4 screws that are in here using my 1.5 millimeter wrench. And of course these are the screws came out of it. And pulling the back off of the camera, you want to lift it from the back of it. Oh, but actually before you lift the camera off, you'll notice this button here. To simplify reinstallation of the back cover, you'll want to put a piece of tape over this button, otherwise it comes loose and it'll be harder to reinstall. So it's simpler to just put a little piece of tape over the button here, so that way it doesn't go any place and you can just pop the cover right back on. As far as mounting location for your antennas, I mean, it could be any number of places. Like you could just simply do something crude like taping it onto your Vision, or using cable ties, you know, any number of places. Anyway, let me first get to opening the camera. I lift the back first, and then the front pops right off. Here's your Vision camera. Now, if you could find the following part, it would dramatically simplify the whole upgrade procedure. And because these are the antennas that are built into the camera, and this is a female, of course, regular U.F.L. plug that goes down onto there, which is the transmitter. Unfortunately, we have to get to that, and you could either completely disassemble the whole camera to get to it, or you can do this other method of getting to it, which I'm going to show you. But if you could simply find a male-to-male extension cable, so instead you could just plug it from here, use a male connector, and plug the other male connector into the female end of this adapter, that would save you a whole lot of trouble. Either that, or finding an RP-SMA instead with a male version and not the female connector. So what we'll have to do to get access to the piece on the bottom is remove the lens by using this screwdriver to get these, using my 00 screwdriver to get these two little screws out. You're going to need to put a little bit of downward pressure because these screws are on pretty tight. So you're going to have to put a little bit of downward force while turning. And of course it's counterclockwise to get it out. And then you're going to lift out the camera assembly. So I'm going to cut back in after I've undone the screws. Oh, and also you'll notice that the camera is on a couple of posts. You see in the back there, two little right above the screw itself, a metal post and then a plastic piece, so it keeps it aligned in there. Alright, anyway, let me cut back in when I undo the screws. Okay, now that my two screws are out, you're going to lift the camera from the bezel straight up. Also, just so you know, this is only held in by friction, by a rubber. So this can actually get out of alignment a little bit, which will make it a little bit trickier reinstalling it. You might need to play with the alignment. Now this is why I was saying normally you would have to disassemble the whole unit, because the connectors we need to get to are flush against these two plastic posts, which doesn't leave you any slack to pull them out. What some others say they have done is they've squeezed together the plastic here while simultaneously lifting the board up to give them enough room. Although I think I could simply bend I might be able to simply bend the post a little to the side. Let me experiment with it for a second and then I'll cut back in and show you what to do. Hello. I've been having a little trouble with that squeezing method people were talking about. So instead, I decided to just bend the post over a bit. It doesn't look like it's breaking, it looks like it's intact. It's just bent. And I did that basically by taking my pliers and very slowly bending it in. I'm going to need a little bit more room, but bending it in, and when I want to put it back I'll just put the plier in like that and spread it apart. And I'll repeat on this other side because I'm going to do a 2 antenna design. And I'm going to use a little small screwdriver here, little flathead screwdriver to pop the connector up. So I'm going to cut back when I've popped it off. Okay, as you see I got this post bent over pretty good. But and I popped it out, the connector out. I actually did it by hand. But you see the post is intact. At least I hope it is. I'm pretty sure it's not damaged. Just actually, you know what? It's very, very slightly torn on the side. And nothing that I'm too worried about. Anyway, I'm going to put my other connector on here. And so I don't have to put holes in the top, I'm going to route the cables through the vent cover before putting the connection down. Let me see if I can get this on camera while I do this. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see me do this, but I'm just going to cut back in when I get it in. It's going to be a little bit fiddly. Okay, giving you another look at this. I got this plug in here. And I carefully bent back the post. Now I bent over this one, but as you can clearly see, the only way to really bend it enough to get the clearance you need is to partially break it. But so if you're worried about that, then I wouldn't recommend doing this mod, at least in this fashion. But if you're not too worried about that, then go right ahead. Because the purpose that these posts serve is that when you're putting pressure down to take these two screws out, it leans down on these posts here, so that way you don't break the circuit board. Anyway, I'm going to pop this bit out here. Actually, I can just use my thumb. And then put my other one on. Again, you can just do this as a single antenna design, although you'll have a little bit less coverage when you pan and tilt, depending on the type of antenna you use, the orientation. I'm opting for the dual right off the bat, so that way I can get the best field of view when I rotate around. And when I place it down, I put the connector over it. And when it's over it, I use my flathead screwdriver. When I know I have it on the thing, I use a flathead screwdriver and push it down until I hear a snap. It's going to be hard to do this while on camera though. Let me get it basically in position first, then cut back in. Alright, here's another look at the camera with everything back in place. Of course, I just push the post back here and this back there. Can't even tell anything. Sorry. Looks good. And it will give the necessary support again when screwing the camera back down. If you don't want to go with the bent post method, again, somebody said that they kind of did something like squeezing this together. Combination of squeezing this together and lifting this up. Saying that it gave them enough clearance, but and I saw somebody else where they took apart most of the camera, which would involve, it would be quite involved. You would start by taking the 4 screws off the top here. And then carefully lifting this board up. Undoing the 2 pins on the side. Loosen that pin on the side here and here. Pop the cable off the back. Lift the back plate out. And there's another 2 pins down here. You gotta kind of pry it off. And then taking the layers out. It can be quite involved. So if you don't want to get too nuts with taking the whole thing apart, you don't mind slightly fraying the plastic post here, then just go with very carefully bending it to the side, pop it out, and then put it over your new one using a flat screwdriver to then finally push it in when you hear the snap, and all will be good. And then you just have to get this back together again. This could be a little tricky because as you moved it around, the lens could get skewed from its original position, because this is just held into place by friction here in this rubber. But basically you want to slide this down, basically put it back on the opposite the way you took it off. You'll want to line up these 2 posts. There's the 2 metal bars in the post in the back and the plastic bit on the side. That helps you line everything. I'm not sure that I want to go through the whole alignment process on camera because it can be take a little while to get right. But I'll show it when it's all back together again. Let me start it. Let me see if I can do it quickly. Anyway, I'm just going to cut back in when I get it right. This ribbon is going to be folded up a little bit in the middle, as it was when it started. I'll cut back in when it's back in place. Okay, this is all back in. I didn't screw it down yet, but you'll see the posts, the metal posts in there are lined up. The camera's flush. Sometimes you might need to twist a little bit to get the lens level again, so that we could slide it down. If there's any gap here, that means that you're a little bit off level. So just twist it a little bit so it's straight and level. Put it down. A quick tip, it's the easiest to get this thing down, not that it's easy, when you have this at a very slight angle, like this way, when sliding it down to get it into the posts. At least it feels like it's at a slight angle when I push it down into place, as opposed to what I think is straight down. So anyway, you'll figure it out. So anyway, now let me get the screws in there. and I'll cut back in. So using my needle-nose pliers to place each of these screws down before tightening it down with my 00 Phillips screwdriver. Got them both tightened down. Be careful not to over tighten them. You don't want to damage anything by unnecessarily over torquing it. Now let me show you how to reinsert the top cover. I also marked one of these cables so I know which was the right antenna. I put a little bit of black magic marker on it. But and of course I have my trusty piece of tape on top keeping that button in place, which is a manual start and stop for the recording. So I'm gonna, when you put it down, you want to put the front down first and then the back, so it's kind of reverse order to the way you took it off. And that's it. It's really easy to pop back on. And now it's just a matter of putting my 4 hex screws back in there. Let me take this piece of tape off. My button works good. Also keep in mind when I'm putting the screws in and out, you know, there's 2 screws which take more pressure. I'm holding the camera in place as I'm pushing down, so that way I'm not stressing the servo or anything when I'm working on it. So anyway, let me get the everything buttoned back up and the antennas mounted the way I plan to mount them, at least temporarily. Okay, I'm back. I've done a few test flights with some different antennas in different configurations, and this mod definitely has improved the range for sure, although depending on the antenna orientations that you use, you can actually end up getting worse results rather than better. First off, my first attempt was using 2 5 dBi antennas mounted on either side, right in the middle. We're using cable ties, and of course it gave clearance for the rotors, and the performance was horrible. I would lose connection constantly at relatively short range. Moving over, same antennas, one like this and one that way, gave pretty respectable results. And so far my favorite configuration has been with a helical antenna, and this particular one is my 8 dBi TP-Link. Like this. This is a 5.8 gigahertz cloverleaf design. A 2.4 gigahertz would be a little bit larger, provide better gain, and work better. The reason for that is so that we have better reception, especially closer range, while you're rotating in all directions. Whereas the Omnis can have a little bit more difficulty when you're often just moving around in general. But anyway, it's worthwhile experimenting, but just so you can save yourself the trouble, do not bother doing either side like this. People have gotten some good results pointing straight down in this direction. Only problem with that is you can't land. You'll have to hand catch and hand take off. So anyway, I'll be giving some links in my description for some antenna suggestions, and a 2.4 Skew Planer that I've ordered that has been reported as getting good results. And anyway, that's about it. So oh, and one other thing, keep in mind again with this, the way I did the mod, bending the post over inside, keep in mind if you wanted to keep accessing the posts for any reason, they will eventually break if you keep bending them over. So if you think that you might want to access them again or multiple times, you'll want to get a short extension cable, a male to female U.F.L. extension cable, and then connect these cables to that. So that way you're only accessing the extension cable, so you don't have to go into the bottom and get access to the bottom piece. So that will make life a lot easier. So let's say if you wanted to temporarily be able to easily go between these and reconnecting to the main antenna and these again, using those extension cables will work, but they're fairly pricey for small extension cables. They're around $10 on eBay and various sites. Anyway, I'll just post updated results with my flights and whatnot in my description, and links to antenna suggestions and some Skew Planer antennas, which will help with multiple orientation performance and whatnot. Anyway, happy flying. Please like and subscribe, and also I'm gonna show a video on how you can extend the range of an Omni antenna by turning it into a directional. This simple bit of aluminum foil, I will show you that. And also how to use a third-party Wi-Fi repeater that is more powerful than the stock one. Alright, anyway, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.